In the next video, I'll show you how to do it all in one step. Okay, now we're to this very last problem. When we ended up in the last video, I told you that we can actually, instead of doing these problems bit by bit, like doing the mass to moles here, and the moles to mass here, and doing the essentially the recipe step or the mole relationship up here separately, you can actually do it all in one big dimensional analysis step. I don't care which way you do it, but I want to show you two different ways. Okay, so let's look at this very last problem. I think it's D on your sheet. It says, how many grams of calcium, so we're looking for grams of calcium, are needed to form 7.2 grams of hydrogen gas. So we know we're starting with hydrogen gas here, and we're trying to find how much calcium is needed to make that. Okay, so above we've been kind of like putting things into the table, but in actuality you can take all of what we did in the last problem and put it into one big dimensional analysis. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, you always start with your given, which is in our case 7.2 grams of hydrogen gas. That's kind of like the independent variable because it's what goes in is going to change what our dependent, which is the calcium, comes out. So we have 7.2 grams of hydrogen. Now, our first step whenever we do these is to get to moles. We can only do our comparison in moles. So we first have to get to moles. And so to get to moles, we're going to divide by the molar mass of hydrogen, which is 2.02. So it's going to go on the bottom. 1 mole of hydrogen goes on top. Okay? So notice my grams of hydrogen gas and my grams of hydrogen gas are going to cancel. And we're left with moles. Okay, now that we're in moles of hydrogen, so now we're on the top here, we're in our moles of hydrogen, now we can do our comparison of how much hydrogen per every calcium. And we learned up here in our balanced chemical reaction that it is a 1-to-1 ratio, okay? So we have 1 mole of hydrogen for every 1 mole of calcium. So essentially what we're doing is we're turning our moles of hydrogen into moles of calcium, and it's just a 1-to-1. Okay? So now our last step is we need to get to grams of calcium because that's what it's asking for, is grams of calcium. And so our very last step to go from moles to grams, we multiply by the molar mass. And so we're going to take 1 mole of calcium. Oof, there we go. And the molar mass of calcium, 40.08 grams of calcium. Made my line a little too big here. And then, okay, and then that's our final analysis. Okay, so that's our final dimension that we're going to put into there. Now, again, that was grams of calcium. Now, let's see how all of this cancels. So I'm changing colors here, and I'm going to start back from the beginning. Grams of hydrogen cancel with grams of hydrogen. Moles of hydrogen cancel with moles of hydrogen. Moles of calcium cancels with moles of calcium. What are we left with? Grams of calcium, which is exactly what we were asked for, grams of calcium. So now we just have to do the math. So remember, each one of the vertical lines is a multiply line. So we're going to multiply the entire top. So 7.2 times 1 times 1 times 40.08. And then this line in the middle of the cancellation line means divide. So then you would divide by what's on the bottom, which essentially, because of the ones, is just 2.02. So when you multiply the entire top and divide it by the bottom, you should get 142.9 grams of calcium. And that's how much calcium you would need in order to make 7.2 grams of hydrogen. Okay, so that's another way to do these. Again, we're going to do lots of practice, and you'll be able to find the way that you find the most comfortable. Okay. All right, now I'm going to want you to go to the next sheet and start practicing how to do these. Okay.